Hey friends, it's V from V Loving Crystals. Guess what? We're going to do a tarot tag. This one is called Unpopular Tarot Opinions. And I officially tag you if you're watching this. So I gathered a whole bunch of different unpopular opinions on tarot from Reddit. There was some just on Google. Some in other comments on other videos from people who did this, and I thought I would also add my own in here. And now we have 15 of them, so I'm going to go and do a rundown on each one and give you my opinion. And if you're watching, I hope that you can do a video response or just comment below. I would love to get the conversations going on each of these points. Reply to them or just make your own questions, your own points. Alright, so the first one here is number 1, card sizes are too big and inaccessible. So, card size is too big. So, for me, I guess what this is saying is that the unpopular opinion is that some decks can be too big to shuffle or to handle or to read with. And in my opinion, I have very small hands, but I don't discriminate against card size only because I feel like there's so much you can do with the cards, like when you have so much imagery, you know, like if it's rich in imagery, I would like to see it on a big card size. And as far as shuffling goes, I just shuffle it differently. I shuffle it like I don't really shuffle them like I would do any order another deck. I would just shuffle it like, you know, having one in my hand. Having the deck in my hand and just, you know, shuffling or running my fingers through them with my right hand, like I'm going through paperwork or something, and then I pluck them out that way. Like my leaf tarot, I just hold it with one hand and then go through it like a filing system with my right hand, and it does the trick, and the messages come out clear and concise like I would if I were to shuffle. So I don't really think having decks with big sizes are hard to handle or read with. I think that, you know, there's, you know, I guess it depends on, you know, if it's just text, but if there's a lot of art, you want to see everything. So why not have it on a bigger card size? Number 2, what are your thoughts? Let me know. Number 2, all you need in life is one tarot deck. People collect too many decks. I don't agree with that statement. Now that I've been collecting decks for so long, and I did become a hoarder. So, in a sense, I do feel that, you know, we shouldn't have like 400, 500, 600, 1,000. But at the same time, I think starting out, it's essential to have a lot of different decks only because it helps strengthen your intuition. And for variety purposes, you have a lot more to work with, and why just be bogged down to just one deck, you know? Why not expand your horizons and learn about different art styles and see how different artists depict tarot in their own way. And it kind of just expands your horizon, your intuition, and it brings fun and color into your life. So I think when you're first starting out, I think it's such a good thing to do to incorporate all those different decks into your practice. And then, you know, you kind of, you know, it kind of helps you. It helps you learn what you like, what you don't like in a deck, different ways to read with decks because everybody has their own system. So you definitely strengthen your practice, your shuffle magic as well, because each tarot deck has different card stock and etc. So it's like training yourself on how to deal with certain card stocks, how to deal with certain imagery, how to deal with certain depictions and, you know, styles and all that. And then you learn what aesthetics you like to work with, if you even have a specific aesthetic, or it's a great learning experience. Now, once you've become a seasoned tarot reader, I can see maybe scaling down, because then you start learning, okay, you know, what what tarot decks you really like to work with, which ones are the hitter one, the shooter, the sharp shooters, the ones that really get the clear messages to you, which ones you really bond with, you know. So I had like over 200, almost 300 decks, and then I think I'm down to like under, maybe I'm down to like 200, maybe a little under 200. I've gotten rid of a lot. My taste has changed, and I also am a deck creator. So I parted ways with a lot of decks, but I kept a big, big hand, not a handful. I kept a lot because I can't see myself parting ways with them. I connect with them, or I can't imagine my life without them, or I wouldn't want to create a deck like it, so it'll stay in my collection. So that's, you know, when you're a deck creator, it's a different ball game. It'll be hard to incorporate all those different decks in your readings, especially if you're a deck creator and you're growing your collection. But for the most part, I think that it depends on everyone's preference. Like I said, becoming a seasoned reader, you might end up not wanting to collect a lot. But at the same time, if you are a seasoned reader and you're doing a lot of readings for people or just pick cards, I can see people wanting to have a variety, like I said. So it's all, you know, whatever floats their boat. But I wouldn't say that everyone needs to collect thousands of decks, hundreds of decks, if they don't want to, if they don't have the money, or if they just don't read that way, or if they're just like a minimalist, they don't need to collect all those different decks to give powerhouse readings, you know. So it's all up to everyone's preference, I would say. But on the other flip side of that, I don't think that people collect too many decks. It really is, you know, what their intuition can handle, what their storage space can handle. You know, sometimes it is hard for me to rotate almost 200 decks in my practice, especially if I'm a creator myself. But even when I wasn't a creator, it was like throwing in decks into the rotation, and then especially if you get new ones, it's like, oh man, I only get to use it once or twice, and then I have to wait until my rotation's through to get back to it, and it could take 2-3 months to finally get to that new deck that I just purchased. So, you know, it could be a little overwhelming, but it's all up to you, you know, at the end of the day. Number 3, there is no need for tarot spreads. Okay, I don't agree with this statement. I'm not saying it's a necessity. I'm not saying that it's a need, but it is very helpful and very, it's practical, and it does help you get your points across easier and quicker, and you're not guessing what's coming out. You already know, you know, clear and simple what each part of the spread stands for. So I like to do a mixture of both. So in my practice, I started, you know, practicing with my father figure. If he's watching, hello, father figure. And we would use spreads together. And then when I was doing my pick cards, I would just do free flow, freestyle, just, you know, shuffle out whatever cards want to come out. But then I found it like, oh my gosh, what is this trying to tell me? Is this what the person is stepping into? Or is this what the current energy is right now? It's kind of like if you're trying to deal with heavy tasks or just heavy duty readings, and you don't want to come across all mumble jumbles and going back and forth and disorganized. And I guess, you know, for certain situations like that, a spread will be handy, you know, but it's not a necessity. You don't really need to use spreads. So I'll give examples. So let's see. I like to create my own spreads. I like to do, you know, whenever I feel like my intuition needs a break from doing freestyle readings, like, you know, I'll shuffle out, okay, card number one, what is the current energy? Card number 2, what are your strengths? Card number 3, what are your weaknesses? Card number 4, what should you work on? Card number 5, how can you combat those weaknesses or your obstacles? Card number 6, what can you look forward to, you know, give you some kind of excitement, something to revitalize your energy. And number 7, any angel messages that want to come through. And number 8, maybe it's, you know, an empowering affirmation for the day or something, you know. just to have it, you know, organized and cut and, you know, have it be cohesive and just, you know, organized. Like you're going from one point to the other without feeling jumbled. But then other times, I'll just ask one question with my cards, and I'll keep clarifying that card that keeps coming out, and that gives me clear messages and readings too. So it's like either or, whatever floats the person's boat. If you're trying to do shadow work and you want to go into your shadow work, let's say, then there's different points you can hit regarding your shadow work, you know. But if you're doing, you know, something simple, like what should I eat for breakfast, you don't need a spread for that. It depends on the person's question. It depends on the energy you're dealing with, what you're trying to get into, how in depth you want to get, etc., etc. So that's what I feel, you know. And I think it's really important to create your own spreads, because only you know what that looks like, or you know like what is essential in your spread, in your reading. You know, if someone else creates a spread and you're like, I don't know what this person meant by opinions of others, let's just say opinions of others on what I'm doing with my life, opinions of others of what happens in my life, like, you know, you won't have to second guess. But if it's your spread, you know exactly, just like if you create your own oracle, you know exactly what you meant when you created the oracle or you created the spread. So it's very, very, very helpful, I will say that, having a spread, but it's not something that you need. It's really, also, I would say, it's really fun to do freestyle readings. Just let your cards just do the talking, and then you fill in the blanks, or vice versa. All right, number 4, the Tower. The Tower card is an awful card. Oh my gosh. Okay, so when I first started seeing the Tower, I was afraid of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, disruption, chaos. But, you know, I feel like I eat tower cards for morning, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Bring it on. Because I feel like my tower moments always help me restart. See, honking horn, reshape my life and shake things up. If I don't have those tower moments, or if I don't embrace them, or if I don't acknowledge them or appreciate them, then I'm, you know, I don't know, I just feel like they happen for a reason, you know? When you're going through it, of course, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's, you know, it's disheartening, it's inconvenient, it's shocking. But after the dust has settled and you know, got through whatever the Tower, you know, brought into your life or out of your life, then you're like, you know what, this happened for a reason, and I'm so happy that it did, because I wouldn't have taken care of this myself, or I wouldn't have seen what I needed to see, or I wouldn't have been able to change, or or just appreciate what I am left with here after the Tower moment blew something away or put something into my life. You know, like, it's an eye-opener. It's like having your awakening. It's like you need to go through your Tower moments to clear the debris, to, you know, and if you don't take care of business, spirit and the Tower will take care of it, the universe will take care of it. So I feel like when the Tower comes, it's for a reason. And although you might not see the reason right away, it's for your highest good. And it might take a while for you to see that. It might take a year, it might take a month, it might take a week, but it is for the highest good. So that's what I've learned, you know, eating my Tower moments for years now, since I've been, before I even started tarot. And then my Tower moment brought me to tarot. Crazy, right? So, it's like if I didn't have the Tower moment, I probably wouldn't have been doing tarot. That specific Tower moment. We have many. So, I am so thankful for the Tower moments in my life. They really do help me clean stuff away, or change my perception on things, or take care of business, or introduces me to new things. So what are your thoughts on that? Number 5, there is too much focus on aesthetic. Who suggested that? Okay, so here are my points. It depends on what we're talking about. Are we talking about like creating a YouTube channel around aesthetics, or are we talking about just reading tarot generally, or just, you know, doing tarot for people personally off camera? It really depends. If you're doing YouTube video and aesthetics, you know, that's what you think will draw people to your videos, then go for it. I mean, we shouldn't stress about it. We shouldn't have to spend, you know, a lot of money just trying to make our videos look appealing. I wouldn't, you know, I would just say start with what you have, you know. Don't focus too much on the visuals. Just make sure it's, you know, quality. Make sure your videos, your readings are hitting people, you know, and they're concise and clear and entertaining, and organized and, yeah, intentional. Like if you're just shuffling cards for no reason, but if you're intentionally doing a reading and you're trying to provide good quality of a reading, then you shouldn't have to worry about the aesthetics, like having everything match, having fancy equipment. You shouldn't have to worry about that, or having fancy cards, expensive cards, whatever. Just for, you know, use what you got. But I would say that, and same thing goes for if you're doing personal readings, you know, just work with what you have. People will, you know, respect that you are working with what you have, and you're still bringing those messages to people, helping people, and they're still, you know, resonating with them, etc. But the other side of it is if you are, if you notice that there's a pattern every time, you know, people, they come to your videos and they keep, you know, commenting on your beautiful aesthetics, then I can see how that, you know, would inspire anyone to keep going with that, you know. Like I see beautiful, you know, channels with, you know, beautiful aesthetics, beautiful props and stuff in their videos. I'm like, wow, that's really good to look at. I really like to look at that. It makes me feel peaceful. It makes me feel at ease. It brings in the experience. My eyes, they know where to wander. They want to wander all over the screen, not just on the cards, but I want to look and see what's in that crystal bowl, you know. So it's kind of like, it depends on the person's preference, but it doesn't, we don't have to have aesthetics to be a good reader, or to get a point across with our cards, or to, you know, to be taken seriously. Like I can do my cards just fine, and I am very serious and I'm very intentional with my work, but I can see how people would want to, it's kind of like a business, you want to dress to impress. So I can see if you do feel like you want to make your videos aesthetically pleasing, then by all means go for it, but it's not like an essential. And if you're doing personal readings and you feel like you make your clients feel at home with your nice aesthetics, then go for it. Whatever works for everyone. Everyone's, you know, their cup of tea is different. I don't feel like I want to stress out about aesthetics, because even though my husband is like, yeah, you should make it look like this. He's a visual person. Very artistic. He likes to look, you know, he likes things to be, you know, appealing. But to me, I'm like, I just want to read my cards. But then at the same time, I don't want my table to look all disorganized or bummy, or, you know, so this, you know, I'm like at the very low of the spectrum, the bottom of the spectrum, where I want my table to look clean so I can have space. I don't want clutter. But at the same time, I don't want to have everything matching, or, you know, I don't want to stress about how everything looks, or how everything matches or anything like that, because then that's going to make me stress out, and I just want to read my cards. So, you know, at bottom line, it's personal choice. So whatever floats your boat, you know. And it could be that some people, they feel better when everything matches their table. So whatever makes your intuition feel at ease, and your viewers, if you have any, or your clients, if you're just doing personal readings, whatever you feel like you want to do, as long as you're pleasing yourself and your intuition, that's the bottom line, right? And of course, if you get good comments and you want to keep on getting those good comments on your aesthetics, then that's, you know, a motivator. Number 6, the guidebook is as important as the deck. I don't agree, because I don't like to use my guidebooks with my decks, only because I feel like it would just take away from the experience, and it would make me feel like I'm depending on the guidebook like it's a crutch, and I don't want to deprive my intuition of letting it explore and find its own answers. So I did learn with the book when I first started, but then I took it away for 2 months because I felt like I was depending on it too much. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to remember this. I have to remember this verbatim and this and this and this. So it's kind of important to, you know, learn with the book. So you have some kind of backbone, a guideline. But then it's awesome and a great, it's handy. It comes in hand to let go of the book for a few months at least. And then, you know, at the end, incorporate everything together and refresh your memory if you need to with the book. And then, you know, use it as training wheels and then, you know, take off from there, not need the book so much. I mean, it's available. You're not restricting yourself. You're not saying, nope, I'm not using the book, even though I want to. It's there, but you don't need it. You know, you can take off like you have training wheels and you're about to take the training wheels off. But I will say when I'm doing readings for myself, and I'm like, I want everything word for word, because it's so hard to read for myself, to be honest. It's so hard. I don't know why it is. It's hard for us readers to read for ourselves. There are things that we want to see, what we don't want to see, and then it's like, but is this, you know, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just very difficult. So that's when I will pull my guidebook for my tarot deck, because I want to know word for word. You know, especially if I'm missing something, I don't want to miss anything, and I might be missing something because it's a personal reading for myself. So I can see how guidebooks are essential in circumstances. Certain circumstances, and personal readings for myself, and if you're like really trying to get to the bottom of something and it's so deep, so dark, and it's like this a lot to unpack, then I can see how a guidebook can help you for the tarot. But I wouldn't say to do that all the time, only because the art should trigger your intuition and your eyeballs, and you should just, you know, go with spirit, go within, and let your inner compass just show you the way. Of course, if you get stuck, pull your guidebook. There's no shame in that, you know. And as far as oracles, I would not use. You know, tarot is a different story because there's structure behind it. There's so many different hidden layers and meanings for each card, even when it's right side up, and then when it's in reverse, it's a whole new ball game. But with oracles, I would not depend on guidebooks at all, because that was, you know, that's someone else's depictions, interpretations. But what if the images mean something completely different to you? Like, let's say a bird. You know, of course, Lenormand's different. You have straight up meanings with them. But let's just say you got a bird with a rainbow, and the person who created the oracle says that it means this. That's their depiction. You know, that's what they had in mind when they created the oracle. But what if it means something completely different to you, and your intuition is really trying to speak to you in the way that you need to hear it? But then you're thinking, wait a minute, let me go with the guidebook. Let me go see what the creator wanted me to say with this card. You're missing the point. And you might not be giving that clear, concise, relatable message, because your intuition is trying to give you a message, trying to give you something, but you're deciding to go with what the guidebook says, and you're kind of like doing your intuition a disservice. So in that aspect, I would say I would not use guidebooks at all with oracles, unless you feel like there's an image or a word that you're not understanding. Not an image, a word. Like if you get a word and you're like, I don't know what this word means. I never heard it in my life. Then I can see how a guidebook would come in handy. And then if there's a question to follow up with it, then that would be awesome. That would be essential to throw that into your reading. Or just to like, you know, elaborate on it. Like, oh, you know what? Let me pull some more. Let me see if there's empowering messages to go with this card, because it seems kind of, the word seems a little conflicting to me. Or let me just pull some more, you know, but. To ride your bike without your training wheels, I think that would be great, because it really helps you step more into your intuition. But I do feel that to bond with decks, guidebooks are so much fun. Bonding with decks helps you, you know, become a better reader, or help you become better in tunes with your cards, your intuition. And so guidebooks helps you really understand the interpretation behind the cards and where the person's energy was at when they created that oracle. So let me know what your thoughts are. Question number 7, decks with borders. So what about it? I just saw this and I was like, oh, borders deck. Okay, so here we go. I like to modify, well, I used to like to modify my decks, ones that had borders, you know, from other creators, Oracles, Tarot. I just feel they're distracting, and they take away from the art. I don't know why that happens. I guess because the borders are so like thick, so your eyes go straight to them. So instead of me trying to figure out where to look on my cards, I take the borders out and I go straight into the imagery. I'm not taking a detour from the border to the imagery. So I think that's just my personal thing. So I don't really like borders too much, but it also depends on the deck. If the deck is created where, you know, you can't cut the borders off because it takes away from the art, then I would not do that. I wouldn't recommend doing that because then you end up cutting into the art. But if you have such a significant amount of thickness around your art, the thick border around your art, and it seems so like tacky or distracting, then that would be me cutting that off. Now I think the whole reason behind the borders is because when it's in production, you have a chance of the art getting cut off, but you have borders, then there's more of a safety zone. So I think it just depends on the production company. I think that's why they use borders. And other times, maybe people feel like it looks better with that way, or maybe it kind of makes it like look like a photo frame, like art in a photo frame. I'm trying to figure out why people would use borders. I really feel like it's the whole science behind it. Like, printing out the cardstock, and what if the images are, not centered when they print out. So at least if you have a safety net, which are the borders, then it would help center all the art. That's just my assumption. I don't even know if that's true, so don't mark my words. But as far as us, users, sometimes borders don't bother us, and sometimes borders do. It depends. It's personal preference. But I've edged a lot of my borders off my cards. Some of them, maybe 2 or 3 of them, I regret because I don't resonate with the deck anymore. Sometimes I do that just to bond with the deck better, and then maybe a year or 2 later I regret it because I still can't bond with the deck. So I would suggest that if we do modify the borders off, that it's a deck that you absolutely love and that you can see yourself working with. And if it's a deck that you absolutely love, also, side note, don't forget that there's a chance that you might mess up your cards when you're trying to modify, because we're human, we're not machines. We can't get everything to be perfect. And then when you shuffle, the cards might shuffle differently because each card will be cut differently because we're human. It's by human hand. So it all depends on, what borders do for your intuition. If they really bother you, then consider taking them off, or consider not buying the deck just in case it really starts to piss you off when you read with your cards. That's why looking at reviews is so important before you make a purchase, because borders could be a deal breaker. It depends. That's just my opinion. What are yours? Number 8, lavender. Alright, so you know how everyone, you gotta have lavender. Lavender is essential in your spiritual journey. I couldn't agree less. I couldn't disagree more. Yeah, same thing. It depends on people's reaction to lavender. Because for me, I hate the way lavender smells. I like my Lavender Love Dreams Oracle. I like the purple on cards. I like lavender in cards, but I don't like smelling it, and I don't like working with it. I don't own... No, that's not the truth. Actually, I got rid of my lavender essential oil because I was just not using it at all. And I know that they say it's supposed to help cleanse the area, or just help you relax and feel at peace, feel at ease. But I just don't like. There's nothing about lavender that I really like. Even the actual plant, I smell the plant and I feel like I'm gonna throw up. It's just the scent. It's just so potent, and it feels very. It smells very salty with mold, like moldy salt with medicine. I can't explain. Moldy dirt with salt and medicine. It just smells very. it just makes me want to, you know, sneeze all day. Not saying that I would sneeze, but it's just something about that scent. Now, if it's mixed in with other things and other things that overpower it, then of course I'm all for it. I'm not going to discriminate if it's, you know, with another essential oil or 2 or 3 or 4. But I don't feel like we all need lavender to cleanse our space. There are other essentials that we can use. I do like the color, and I do like looking at the plants, but that's as far as it goes. First tarot deck should be gifted. Question number 9. Okay, so here's my take on this. I don't believe in that. If I believed in that, I wouldn't be doing tarot right now. I wasn't going to wait for someone to gift me a tarot deck just to start my practice, or to tickle my fancy, or to quench my tarot thirst, my spiritual thirst. I felt so inclined to want to learn tarot. What was I supposed to do? Hey, can you go buy me a deck so I can start my tarot practice? No, I'm going to take it upon my own hand, take it upon myself, and just, you know, start my own practice, start my own journey. So that's what I did, and I started with the Kawaii Tarot, and it's the best thing I could have done for myself. It's a deck that I chose myself, so it feels even more special. And I started with a minimalist deck. That's a minimalist deck, so I was able to write my own keywords. I made it into a flashcard tarot deck, which helped me learn rapidly. And with my tarot book, and with, thanks to my father figure, and a deck that he gifted to me, which I learned alongside my Kawaii Tarot. So I learned from all different avenues. I learned from a deck that I created, that I chose myself, and a deck that I created into a flashcard tarot, and the actual Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, the traditional type, with the guidebook. So it's like I tickled all fancies. I hit all points. So I got a gifted deck, and I also gifted one to myself. So it was a beautiful first-time experience learning tarot, for sure. So for those of you who feel like, oh, you need someone to bless your cards when you first learn tarot, when you first want to start tarot, I don't believe in that. I feel like you're blessing it yourself. If you're welcoming it into your practice, then I feel like that's a blessing in and of itself, because you're welcoming that into your life. It's a personal experience. It's a personal choice. It's a personal journey. And why should you not be part of that starting phase of you introducing something into your life that's very, very personal, or interesting, or eye-opening, or even scary, because it was scary for me. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm buying this. Anyway, so that's my take on that. Number 10, too much attention is paid on jumpers and flyers. Okay, so this one makes me want to talk about this for like a year or something. No, let me stop. I might end up talking about this for another 30 minutes, but I'm going to sum it down. So my first point was too many. If there are too many cards that come out, I shuffle them back in. But at the other side of that token, before I thought I was being clumsy. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm shuffling. I'm not being tight with my shuffling magic. I'm just shuffling like a mad woman. Then I realized I put them back in, and then they come out eventually again in the middle of my reading or towards the end of my reading. I'm like, oh shoot, I should have listened to myself. Why did I think I was so clumsy? Why did I second guess myself? So at that point, that's when I started learning to keep the flyers in, and I'm a late learner or a slow processor, so it took me a while to start learning to keep my flyers in. And so I learned a lot with that system. Those cards, they're meant to be there. They tell me a big story, even when a lot comes out. And I realized also that if a lot comes out, the system that I'm picking up on is that 10 cards push one card out that really needs to be in my reading. So you have like buffers. Like one card really wants to show itself. My intuition really wants that card, but then the only way for it to come out is if 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 or half the deck pushes that one card out. So then I go through the whole bunch of cards that pop out, I interpret them, and then at the very end or in the middle, I realize, oh my gosh, this is a card that really needed to be here. Or this is a card that shuffled out before I put it back in. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Spirit, for helping me bring it back to my reading. So I feel like jumpers are essential. But unless it's like a big chunk of cards, and it could be that, all those cards need to push one out. Or it can just be that we need to shuffle the deck better, or bond with the deck better, and get used to that card stock better, I put my notes. I used to question myself until I started seeing synchronicities after peeking at what cards jumped out. And then my other point was, even when I put the cards back, they come out again eventually before the reading's over. And my other point is, cards often fly out to, push other cards out. And then I realized that the others aren't really needed to be read. So, but I just read them anyway, just in case. And then I would say 9 times out of 10, they all were meant to be out for a reason. And then they all clarify each other. I feel like a broken record. So if you wish, look at your flyers as, your intuition trying to get your attention, like a red flag, like, hello, look at me, look at me, look at me. And if you put them back in, it's kind of like you're missing a chance to see a different part of your reading. So those flyers are there for a reason. The next one, number 11, interviewing a deck is a must. Here's my opinion. I don't think you need to interview a deck, but I do think it's essential to bond with any deck that comes into your practice to better understand and, calibrate the energy, like your energy with it. And learn the system before you do your readings. Learn how the person depicted their art and what they, that's what I say, looking at the cards at a glance, trying to get that energy, trying to see, oh my gosh, okay, this is what they had in mind when they created this deck. And then, oh, you know what, this kind of boggles my mind. Let me look at the guidebook just for a quick guide. Okay, and then, put the guidebook aside. That's to help bond with the deck, to help understand the person's art and their intentions. Only if you feel like, I would say, all across the board when you're first starting to read with your deck. Because it's kind of like, you end up getting stuck in the middle of your reading if you just start reading your cards, not knowing what the system is behind it, or how you're supposed to use it, or how it's gonna gel well with your intuition. So it's always best to gel with your decks when you first get them into your practice. And you can do that by just doing practice readings, personal readings on yourself, or just asking random questions, or just shuffling your cards and just having fun with your cards before you start doing readings. I think that's always essential. Number 12, no one but you should handle your deck. I don't agree with that either. I let anybody use my decks. I'll let anyone, look at my collection. I don't feel like someone else's energy will influence my readings. I always have I always knock into my cards to shuffle or, knock out the energy of someone else's, or I'll just do a little shuffling and that cleanses the energy. If I feel that there's anything negative, or if I feel like there's something that's off about the deck after someone handled it, then of course I would put it aside, cleanse it, put it aside, not use it, and then, go on with my other decks. I have many, so, but for the most part, I wouldn't say, oh, you shouldn't touch my decks, it's a sacred thing. I don't think so, because I cleanse my deck, and I wouldn't want to feel like my decks are forever tarnished because someone touched my decks, so it's all everyone's opinions. Everyone has their own opinions. You can think how you want to think. You do your own thing, because it's it could be sensitive to certain people. Some people might say, no, I don't want anyone else's energy, and they might be very just cautious of other people's energies on their cards. But for me, it doesn't really bother me when other people use my decks. I would of course have to trust them, make sure they're not going to damage my decks, or make sure they don't have bad intentions, of course. And even if it's a stranger, I wouldn't let a stranger just start touching my cards anyway, but that's different. It's like, oh, here, go touch my deck. I don't know who you are. That's different. But if it's just like regular people in your life, I really don't have a problem with that. The next one here, number 13, Bible versus Tarot. Okay, so I put this in there also. There's a lot of things that I put into this one just so I can have a reason to talk and raise not awareness, but just to have something to talk about and engage with you in the comments. But so Bible versus Tarot. So this is my thing. What's the difference between pulling out a passage from the Bible compared to pulling out a card from a tarot deck? There's no difference. That's just where I stand on it. I grew up a Catholic. I grew up very religious, and then I didn't have a religion for the longest time in my 20s and my 30s, so I would know, I kind of know where I stand, because I have both I was immersed in both energies. I'm sorry, both lifestyles of having religion, not having religion, and now having tarot. And I would say that my intuition is my religion right now. And if it hadn't been for tarot, I wouldn't have been introduced to my intuition. So I wouldn't even know what spirituality was for real, for real. I wouldn't even have been connected to my inner compass, my own spirituality, my own inner wisdom. I wouldn't have if it hadn't been for tarot. And I think that, being Catholic, I don't mean to offend anybody, but for personal experience, personally speaking, I feel like being Catholic kind of deprived me of being introduced to my own intuition or my own judgments or my own beliefs or my own whatever, my own spirituality. Because I was, it was like all fear-based growing up. Oh my gosh, if I trust my own intuition, I'm committing some kind of whatever. Oh, I have to believe in this, I have to believe in that. If I don't, something bad's gonna happen to me. I have to go to church, I have to pray, oh my gosh, if I don't, blah, blah, blah. It was just a lot of fear. It was fear-mongering, I guess we'd say, or fear-based religion to me. That's just my personal experience. I do believe in certain parts of the commandments. I feel like that those are key points that anybody should live by, that I should live by. No, not everybody. That I should live by. Treat elderly with respect. Treat your parents with respect. You should not kill. You should not murder. I do believe in parts of all the commandments. I do, but I feel like I have an eclectic soul, and my soul wants to dabble in tarot and meditation and yoga and using my sound bowl and Reiki and witchery and using herbs to cleanse the energy and go out in nature and do mantras and hug a tree if I want to. And so I feel like the difference between pulling out a passage from a Bible and pulling out a tarot deck, there's no difference. And I feel like, how people say, oh, you're in the Bible, you should not foresee the future, you should not do tarot, we're not really foreseeing the future with tarot. I feel like it's not a prediction. It's more like, picking up on energy, reading energy, and using that as advice to proceed forward if you wish to. But even if I was telling the future, who are you to tell me that I can't tell the future? What I do with my life, what I do with my cards, what I do with my intuition is for me to judge, for me to take care of, for me to worry about, and not what a book says I should or shouldn't do. Even if I was in that religion or not. Like, you're not the boss of my soul, you're not the boss of my intuition, you're not the boss of my my card shuffling magic, my ancestors who I work with to help me bring these answers. Like, if I want to read tarot, I'm going to read tarot despite what any book says. And that's coming from a point, of just opening my mind and not practicing organized religion for the longest. And this is just where I am right now. And I don't see anything negative with practicing tarot, even if you are part of a religion. If you are very religious, I say toot your own horn. If you feel drawn to tarot and you're very religious and you believe in the Bible, then toot your own horn. I don't see anything wrong with it, honestly. I don't see anything negative or evil, or, it's all up to the interpretation and the intuition and intention. If you intend to do bad things with the deck, then maybe you shouldn't be doing tarot. But if you're, same thing, if you're intending to do something bad with the Bible, then you shouldn't be doing anything with the Bible. Same thing. It's all the intention behind the cards or the Bible or the magic wand or your herbs or your crystal bowl. Like, what are you intending to do? If it's all positive, then I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see anything, I don't see a difference between saying, hey, I'm going to pluck out a passage from this Bible to give me a good, start to my day, or, and it's something very uplifting, like learn to love yourself, page 199, right? And then in my tarot deck, it says, let go of grudges, focus on the now, the here and the now, and the future, or the present moment. It's the same thing, so that's just where I stand. Everyone has their opinions. What are yours? The last question is, people need to cleanse their decks for whatever reason. So this is where I was talking about a few questions before. I don't really think we need to cleanse our decks per reading, per whatever, but I do feel like if we feel a little off with our decks and something's just not vibing, then maybe it needs a good cleaning, you know, maybe for your intuition purposes. Like maybe your intuition needs to know that you have a reset button with your cards. And that will help jumpstart your intuition, like saying, okay, this deck is clean and easy to be used, ready to be used. And we're ridding off any other energy prior to the other readings you did, so let's just have a clean slate. So then I just knock into my decks, knock it a few times. I can breathe into it if I want to, I can sage it if I want to, but if it's not ready at that point, I put it aside and use another deck. I don't feel like you need to cleanse your deck all the time, or I don't think it needs to be part of a practice per se. I mean, everybody has their own opinions. But for someone to say, oh, you need to, like, you know, it was kind of forced down my throat. Oh, you better cleanse your decks before you use them. Oh, you better close your tarot circle before you do your readings. Oh, you better blah, blah. And I'm thinking, who are you to tell me how to practice with my own intuition and my own tarot system, my own decks? Who are you? And some people will be like, oh, I never cleanse her decks before she goes live on her live stream, and I never see her do a practice. You don't know what I do off and on camera. You don't know what I do. And who says that I believe in the same practice as you do? I don't have the same steps as you do. Just like we don't brush our teeth the same way, just like we don't eat our food the same way, just like we don't turn the TV on or off a certain time of day or the same way. Like, we all have our own system. I can use the remote control to shut my TV off, or I can get my butt off the sofa and turn it off manually by touching the button on the screen. Everybody has their own system, so I don't believe that we should force anything upon any reader to say, hey, you better use your Palo Santo, your sage, your crystals to cleanse your decks before you start doing your readings. You better make sure I feel like it's all up to the person's practice, the personal preference. They're using their own intuition, their own better judgment. If they feel that they shouldn't be doing readings when their energy is off, or if they feel there's a negative association to their cards, maybe they haven't bonded with their cards, so maybe it's not gelling well with them, I would just say don't advise everyone to do everything that you do, because it might not resonate with them, you know? So that's where I stand. Let me know what you feel. I would love to hear your responses, your video responses. I hope you like my raw truths. I feel like it's a good way to get to know each other. You get to see the other side of me. And I'm not sugarcoating anything, I'm just telling you how I feel. So it's, I really feel like this is a good outlet to get my opinions across, and not hold back, because, this is the tarot community, and we all have our opinions and our belief systems and our X, Y, and Z's, So thank you for watching. You have a beautiful day, and I would love, love, love to see your videos, or please interact with us in the comments. I would love to know where you stand.